All right, welcome back. It's now 6 minutes past 7 a.m. Welcome back. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning. Still a cold one in the city, and of course, we are approaching the month of July, so we expect that to happen and to continue for quite some time. The only thing you can do to yourself is to stay warm, and of course, make sure that you be careful. All right. So today being Tuesday, people in politics, let's talk about things to do with democracy. Kenya is a democratic country, and we've been enjoying that for a long time now, and we need to strengthen it by all means necessary. That is our topic of discussion today, on how we need to strengthen our democratic space in as far as our country is concerned. So let's talk about strengthening governance through democracy. Strengthening governance through democracy. Those are two different things, of course. Governance and democracy are two different things, but how can we strengthen governance through democracy? That is what I want us to talk about. And you can also talk to us on our social media platforms as we handle that. Gibson Gesore, an advocate of the High Court, already in studio. He's also a political analyst. There you have him. He's not new to Jerusalem. He just disappeared from Jerusalem, and he's back. Wakili,
yes.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
You're well?
I'm well.
Karibu sana to Jerusalem.
Asante sana.
While you're away.
I hope we won't be bombed.
No. we are safe.
Okay.
We are in safe hands.
Yes.
And of course, Honorable Peter Orero, who is a member of parliament representing the good people of Kibra constituency here in the capital city, already in studio. Mheshimiwa, again, are you with the bomb? To bomb us in Jerusalem.
You know, that was the late Kajwang.
Yes.
Who said, while you are away.
While you are away.
It was a bomb.
We all remember son of Homa Bay County. It was bomb. It was quite a time then. Mheshimiwa Peter Orero, karibu sana to the program.
Thank you.
We are waiting for Peter Njero, who is a political analyst, to join us shortly, but the show has begun. And so let me start with you gentlemen. First of all, Mheshimiwa, your key highlights. It's been quite a time in Kenya for the last 1 month or so. I mean, we started the finance bill here, we went for the public participations, went to parliament, and all that came to, a lot really happened. And as a leader, and of course, traversing the country in different, what has been happening there? What is your key highlight so far?
Yeah, I think, I know it's quite a while that I've not been here.
Yes.
But what has been important the last 1 month is about the budget of this country. And budget comes after the BPS, budget policy statement. Then now it goes to budget estimates. And after that, then now we go for finance bill.
Yes.
I think it was just a week or two ago that we had the finance bill. But for the first time, the finance bill, the current CS, that is John Biden, engaged quite a number of, engaged the public.
Yes.
For instance, he had opportunity to come to my constituency, in fact at night, from 7:30 p.m. to midnight.
That is 6 hours of engagement.
Yes, 6 hours of engagement. In Makina, right inside the informal settlement. And people had the opportunity to interrogate the finance bill, which already was out. And, there have been different finance bills that had been circulating.
Yeah.
I think he had the opportunity to talk to Kenyans on the right finance bill. But most importantly, I think for the first time, he said he had not increased the taxes when there was public engagement. And when it was brought and the budget was read in parliament, we realized actually he had not increased taxes as before. But we are waiting to see how he's going to balance this, because we had a bit of deficit in that budget. He had about 900 million deficit. That he promised that gap will be filled through domestic borrowing and also the international borrowing. I think domestic borrowing was over 650 million, and the rest was for international borrowing. So we are yet to see how this is going to translate, because it requires the collection, the revenue. We have to consistently look at ways and avenues of collecting our revenue. And you know, this revenue is divided into three arms of government, that we have the executive, we have the judiciary, and also we have the parliament. So this has been one of the key highlights. But the other one also, key is about the, you know, this tomorrow, we have this agencies also. I think there has been highlight from all corners about tomorrow, but we are yet to see, because we are not there.
Okay.
I think basically those are the highlights of the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wakili, some of the key highlights that as a Kenyan watching from the periphery and just analyzing things happening in our country, what are some of the things that you've carried with you so far?
I think so far so good. What I can say is that let me start by the day we are about to celebrate tomorrow. It's my hope and my sincere expectation that it's all going to be well.
You are a Gen Z.
No, you know, we are all Gen Z by default because we are all Kenyans and we'll be affected. You know, my office is right at the center of Parliament Road. So whichever way I'm affected.
Right.
So I'll need to know how to tread carefully, not to be caught in the chaos. That's why I'm hoping that it all goes well. So that is a very significant day, and I think for the foreseeable future, that is going to be a day which will be marked with a lot of emotions, which will be marked with a lot of expectations, because we will need to be able to reevaluate ourselves, how far we have moved, or what strides have we made to avoid such an incident, which of course affected us greatly. And I'm glad that Mheshimiwa said that the CS Treasury was able to take the cue and even engage Kenyans immensely to ensure that is able to harness what is called public consensus towards the finance. But this one has gone quietly. Nobody has been able to raise an eyebrow. I think if there are issues which Kenyans understand that indeed this is our country, and whatever is being made in the budget is something which affects us. So, and the promise of not adding any more taxes, which was really getting under the skin of Kenyan, is something which we need to commend him for. That he was able to be very Solomonic in terms of crafting, with his team, of course, in terms of crafting whatever they had to craft to ensure that Kenyans would be able to buy in what, and he did a good job. Went even to the media, tried to explain to people that this is exactly what we are doing. You see, Kenyans are not very callous people. They are people who expect to be engaged, to be involved, to be told why, to actually be told something which makes sense. That I think went well. So other than that, I've also seen the other dark side of the young girl who was, I think we are lucky that the charges were dropped recently in court for making a website which was to be used in public participation. So, you know, we are testing, we are testing the systems of our judicial vis-a-vis public participation rights. And that came in handy. I think she became a star because she was represented by almost everyone whom she didn't know. And that, of course, marked something that Kenyans can stand up to. And the fact that the charges were dropped demonstrates that we are maturing in terms of knowing what allegations are supposed to be able to proceed to court and what should not be able to proceed to court. The other highlight is not really about Kenya, it's about our friends Tanzania, which really put us in loggerheads with our neighbors. And that, of course, is about human rights. And I was talking to somebody last night from Tanzania, and they were saying that, you know, the kind of fire you guys lit, you don't know what it's still doing down here, because the spirit of activism, the spirit of what country are we in? Why are we like this? People have started to ask themselves, why do we still have the independence constitution, which was discussed in Lancaster? Why are we doing this? Is the kind of debate which people have started asking. And I think of recent, as yesterday, we, as the Law Society of Kenya, we were supposed to fly in November to Zanzibar for the East African Law Society, which has been there for 30 years. And we've been doing rotational. So it was the turn for Zanzibar to host us. I think due to such things, the president, the chairman, the president of the Law Society of East Africa and his council decided that we cannot guarantee the safety of all the 45,000 lawyers who might want to come and enjoy Zanzibar and discuss legal issues. So the venue has been changed. Recently, we have admitted Ethiopia to the East African Law Society. So we thought, why not do it in Addis Ababa? So that speaks volumes. I think you can see even the Tanzanian Airlines has been denied access to Europe. So they have resorted to actually allowing flights which they had not allowed, so that they can bring in tourists, because that, of course, will affect their tourism. So they have had to go through extra lengths to suffer for something which they really didn't have to, because they could have treated or handled this better, but they chose a different way, and it is what it is.
Great. And of course, a lot has happened when it comes to police brutality. IPOA, this time around, IPOA is being thrown to the dark corner to exercise its muscles and see how far they can go with the investigation. Then I think His Akasan is now feeling the real weight of being in that seat.
He's feeling the heat. Most recently, I think we didn't know what those cases. I've ever dealt with IPOA, and I had the feeling that they are still police. They're still police, and now that turning the court and saying we are an independent and oversight body was where the challenge was. But now they will be forced to do that.
All right, so let's come back to this one. Gentlemen, the democratic space that we are enjoying as a nation, we all know how far and how hard it was, it came about. The repeal of Section 2A, this and that, multi-party democracy and all that, the people who fought for it, you're lucky enough that you saw the process until, Mheshimiwa, the promulgation of the new constitution that we are in today, which is quite a good copy that we are enjoying. But how do we strengthen this? We are in a country where democracy is democracy, and it has its limits as well. Let me start with you as a member of parliament, Mheshimiwa. That house plays a pivotal role to sustain and to make democracy a strong pillar of our nation. How do we strengthen it?
Victor, democracy, when people talk about democracy, it takes different angles. And normally democracy should be by the people, and it must be for the people. You must engage public participation. You must allow public opinion on this. And Article 1 of the Constitution rests the power of governance to the people. Because it's about the people that gives others the authority to govern. But all said and done, the 2010 Constitution did not just come from 2010. We had a struggle to change this country from political de jure party, I think the lawyer here will agree, to a de facto. That means we were a single party state for a very long time, that the word of the president and the word of the ruling party was law. If you saw the rule of Moi and the current rule of the people we have now, there has been a great change in terms of governance. Long time during elections, we never even used to have election for the president. I never saw it happen.
It was a free will.
It was a free will, and people always believed that the president was to rule until he dies. Our first president ruled until he died. So this moved to our second president. So until democracy was brought through a multi-party state system, where now we had to choose between different people vying for the presidency, it brought a lot of freedom. So democracy is about freedom. We are in this country, one of the most democratic states almost in the world could be Kenya, where you are allowed to speak your mind, and most of the time you are let free. But this democracy must be strengthened. And one of the pillars that must strengthen this democracy is the legislative arm of the government. That is the parliament. Because we are legislators that must make laws which resonates with the thinking of the people of this country, and which protects the rights of the people of this country. I think Article 36 and all the articles within the Constitution, we have cases where the rights of people, we must protect the rights of people.
Yeah.
So which are these institutions that we need to strengthen so that the rights of individuals, of Kenyans, are protected? So we have various arms of the government. One of them is judiciary, because they interpret the laws that we make. The legislations that we make in the House must be properly interpreted by the judicial system. So the Judicial Commission and the judiciary must be strengthened. They must be given room to interpret the laws accordingly, so that the Kenyans can get their rights. That is one aspect of areas that we need to strengthen, so that we have our democracy flourishing. We must also look at other areas. We have the police. We must look at the laws, the roles of the police in this country. We must look at the roles of IPOA. We must look at the role of civil society, the Law Society of Kenya. Because some of these agencies, if they do not come out, I am not leaving the religious sector.
Absolutely.
Which, of course, must speak about the ills of the society. We have seen how the religious sector has contributed towards the realization of democratic space with this country. When you talk about the Okulu,
Justice Okulu,
he contributed a lot to the democratization of this country. We also, is it Ndigi Mwananzeki? Remember Ndigi Mwananzeki also had a lot of input in terms of realization of democracy in this country. The current religious leaders must come up and also speak their mind and bring sanity in this country. If we don't strengthen the religious group, then we will be at a loss. The Law Society of Kenya, the LSK, those days of Paul Muite, those days of where we used to know that the Law Society of Kenya must always talk about the rights of individuals in this country. The current lady is doing well. It's called Faith Odhiambo. She's trying. So that the Kenyans must be able to enjoy the fruits of democracy. These are some of the areas and the pillars that we must strengthen so that our democratic space is maintained and increased. The legislation that we make within the House must be sober legislation. We must not make this country to be governed in a way that the interests of the majorities are threatened.
That is Wanjiku.
Yes.
Wakili, he talked about judiciary, he talked about the House of Laws, that is the National Assembly, and of course the Senate, and of course trickling down to the county assemblies, so to speak. How, in your own perspective again, we really enjoy the democratic space that we are in as a country. But how do we strengthen it? I'll come back to the misuse of the democratic space that we are enjoying. I'll come to that, because it seems that too much of it is also becoming too dangerous for us. Yeah.
I think the best way to strengthen democracy is by looking at the three elements, the three arms of government, because the three arms of government are supposed to work like a stool.
Yes.
A three-legged stool where one is the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. These should be distinct bodies which should be able to work independently, separately, but should be able to work towards a common purpose, and that common purpose being Kenya. We should always ask ourselves that what does Kenya want? What does Kenya want? And that is the best way we can be able to strengthen democracy. You've seen in mature democracies, places like the US, Trump gives a decree. I think more or less he rules by decrees, that he doesn't want to see all migrants.
And that's it.
Of course, he starts the process. The other day he said he doesn't want to see students coming to study in the US, but the court told him no. That has been our system. You cannot just change it by just giving a declaration. So that is how you get to check the systems. Everywhere world over, be it kingships, be it so to say monarchies, any executive, they will want to maintain absolute power. So it's upon Mwananchi to actually be able to stand out. And how does Mwananchi stand out? Through parliament and through an independent arm, which is the judiciary. These systems were, democracy should be celebrating 800 years ago, and this started with the Magna Carta. The kingship back in the day in Europe, in the continental Europe, that is, all of the countries actually had some sort of monarchy system going on. France decided to kill their own in 1668 because they thought it was being overbearing. And they did it in a very merciless way. And then they gave the power to themselves.
Yeah.
The same thing happened in England, whereby they went and arrested the king in the evening by the shores of River Thames. They got him out of the palace and took him by the river. Told him, you see, this is it. It's either we are the majority, you guys are the few guys. It's either you rule by what? They had drafted some document. That document is what is called as the Magna Carta and has been celebrated as it. So the king was forced. It's either you rule by this or we do away with you. So he had a choice to make by the river in the evening. So that decision was let the people decide. That's where people go for elections. That's why whatever the people say, especially in Europe, if you see especially in UK, if you see the people are annoyed, the government normally comes in and changes tack.
Okay. But how is our democratic space?
Our democratic space is also drawn from the same. That when the people are annoyed, you see like the case of Albert Ojwang, we had to see something being done. We had to see, and that has happened from the time of Jesus. When Barabbas was supposed to be hanged, but then people said we want Jesus through machinations, of course. So we need to be very careful and ensure that whatever decisions we make or whatever decisions the executive makes are in tandem with the will of the people.
Okay. I want to take a break, but Mheshimiwa, in 20 seconds, how is our democratic space as a country?
I won't complain about democracy, our democratic space. It is wide enough, to use the simplest term. The Kenyans, when you compare Kenya with our neighbors, any country about around us, whether it is Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, name it, we cannot compare.
We are at a better place.
We are at a better place. But we are not saying it is the best. We are at a better place, but it can be even much better. But I can say that the way we exercise our democratic rights is not comparable to any other country around us. But we need to still strengthen that democracy.
Okay, very good. Let's take a break. On that note, we need to strengthen it. It's exactly 7:30. Let's take a break, and we come back. We still want to continue that. But of course, too much of it can also be dangerous, and there are some limits to it. I'm saying this with reference to what we've been experiencing in the country, and of course, what is about to happen tomorrow. That democratic space that we are enjoying, we need to exercise some caution about it. Let's talk about that when we come back after this break. Stay with us. All right, and welcome back. So Mushme, it was your time. Before we took a break, now let's just circle back. There is this aspect of citizen engagement, which again in our constitution is I think is one of the backbone of a democracy. Public participation. It happened in your constituency during the finance bill, and was it almost a month ago, during the NGCDF engagement, across all the 290 constituencies, that also happened. So when you talk about democracy and Wanjiku, how do you bring these two people together, democracy and Wanjiku? Because without democracy, Wanjiku is not there. Without Wanjiku, there's no democracy.
I think that is why it was within the presence of thoughts of our great lawyers to put what is called public participation.
Yes.
Although in Parliament, we are still trying to see the threshold of public participation because the number is not determined, the days are not determined. So it is within an individual jurisdiction to say that they have carried out a good public participation. It has not been anchored. The threshold has not been anchored within the Constitution. But all said and done, an attempt to engage the public in a reasonable manner reflects what is called a public participation. So in all this about the NGCDF, you remember all the MPs were released to go to their respective constituencies to try and engage with the public to see whether they support the NGCDF. NGCDF, this is a fund that has been given not to the MPs, but to the constituencies, managed by the constituency managers, and bringing infrastructure development and also the bursaries for the students. And after the public participation, you realize the majority of Kenya had very positive statements to make about the NGCDF. So this is the Wanjiku we are talking about. We are talking about the people on the ground. Wanjiku represents the opinion of the people on the ground.
The final consumer.
The final consumer.
Yes.
So when you engage the final consumer, then the end product will contain the thinking and imaginations of the final consumer. So it will be a reflection, a total reflection of the opinion of the majority. So when it is a total reflection of the opinion of the majority, now we say the process has been democratically conducted.
Yeah.
So public participation in one of our mature democracy, it is borrowed heavily from the mature democracy where people are engaged to see really what does the country require.
Yeah.
And what is a country? A country is made up of the people and the resources. So what the people require is what makes and what brings up what is called a public participation.
But the same Wanjiku we're talking about, do we really understand or appreciate the democratic space that we are enjoying? I mean, there's people who literally, went to the trenches for us to enjoy what we're enjoying today. Are we misusing that space?
I think you brought a very a good term. People went to the trenches, and some of the people who are now here, in our language, I don't know how you translate it, that when the rain, a heavy rain has stopped, you might not remember tomorrow that there was a heavy rain. You cannot, I don't know how you can translate it. You are a linguist. You don't. So there are people who suffered for this democratic space to be where it is. We had a brutal system of governance that inflicted and even killed people who were pro-democratic, who were pro-democracy. We have many of our sons who died. When you talk of Wakina Nyona, who fought for this, Wakina Matiba fought for this, and for us to get this, I am not trying to underestimate, and I would not just want to say that one of the still leading people who are on trenches, there are many people, but one of the leading is Raila, who is still there and fought for the democracy. We are people like Paul Moite, Gitobu Imanyara, James Agri Orengo. That time they fought, they were on trenches for us to get this democracy that we have now. Yashpal guy, the people who went to do this, to write the constitution. So we are saying that those who fought for this democracy, this democracy did not just come.
Yeah.
So it must be safeguarded and must be guarded jealously by the current generation. History repeats itself. They need to understand what brought this up to where it is. They must go back to the history. And therefore, the democracy that we are enjoying now must not be misused. It must be guarded by different arms of government. And where we have reached as a Kenya, people can never go back. Where Kenyans have reached now, if you want to take them back, it is you who will go back, but not the people of this country.
I'll come. There is this question of, Mheshimiwa, you know, when you talk about the people who fought for it, but there is a sense of the old or the people who fought for the democracy to teach the younger generation what it's all meant and why it should be kept intact in some safe haven somewhere. But Wakili, you've listened to what Mheshimiwa has said. The democratic space we are enjoying, and based on almost everything that is happening in the country right now, are we misusing it? Because I think LSK is overworking, because it seems a lot is happening again, throwing LSK to do a lot of work. If you know what I'm saying.
Yes, I get what you are saying. From my perspective, I wouldn't say that we are misusing the democratic space. Democratic space, the fact that there's any space, the space has to be utilized. So whichever way it's utilized is still utilization. You see, society evolves. Society evolves through different stages, and we cannot claim that we are fully evolved. So even the Americans are also not fully evolved.
Just like in politics, yes. Publicity, whether negative,
it is still publicity.
So whichever you use it,
so there is no misusing. The thing is that we need to be able to agree on things which we can be able to coalesce around, and the things which are still which are really beneath us, we need to disown and castigate as a people. That is how democracy can be able to be safeguarded. But if we go by what I don't feel comfortable with, I should be able to deal with Victor, then that is anarchy. That is anarchy, and that cannot be democracy from where I stand. We have challenges in accommodating our opinions of others, and that is what we need to work on. And once we're able to work on that, then we can be able to sanitize this particular space which we are calling democracy, and be able to agree on basic minimums. And the agreement of basic minimums is always having consensus on how we want to move to the next level. If we can, as a people, there are challenges in terms of harnessing the fruits of the Constitution. And some people might feel that when people are exercising their constitutional right, then that becomes an excess. So if we are not being very careful and watching out on some of the things which are being condemned by some quarters, we might end up eating into the gains which were built by the Constitution. And that is very deliberate. I say that deliberately so that we are awake, because the aspects of democracy is something which has got to be cultivated every day. The tree of democracy has to be watered every day. That day you fail to water it, it will lose some leaves. And once it loses some leaves, it will lose its outlook. It will lose its branches sooner. The tree will be drying up no sooner than we realize. So the very aspect of that is that we need to be able to water the tree every day. And those leaves which we feel or branches which are excess, we need to prune them. You don't prune by cutting down the tree. You prune by removing the systematically. Systematically. How do you do this? This is where Mheshimiwa comes in, by making sure that you pass legislations which are sound, which are woke, which are of course anticipating, giving hope that our space is not being impeded on. So if we can be able to have a system whereby we can be able to be futuristic in terms of understanding what are the current generations expecting. We are in the space of AI. We are in the space of ChatGPT, which is moving very fast. and some of the people are already being left behind. So our constitution well enables all those things to exist in one space. If we can be able to move to that perspective and be able to actually, for example, if I can give you a very good example, courts were very conservative in terms of service. You have to look for Victor wherever he's hiding, whichever hole he is in. When he knows that you are going to court, he actually disappears. But now with technology, the courts have been able to be open to aspects of just seeing the politics on WhatsApp, and that's enough. They say that Victor has been served. Whichever hole you are in, even if you went to Mogadishu, we will be considering that the case should be so that justice can be able to prevail. But so if we cannot be able to move in tandem with that space, then we are not living in the reality of the times. So that aspect of civic education, that aspect of us opening our eyes and being woke to what the Constitution anticipates and what the societal development stages we are taking, then we got caught in between, and we started.
It will remain constant. And then, Mheshimiwa, when you look at it, the younger generation and the people who brought this constitution and the democratic space we are enjoying today, it seems there's a big gap. But who is there to remind the younger generation, or the Gen Z, or the future generation, of why it should be upheld and strengthened? That, okay, fine, we have it here, but we need to exercise some caution even in exercising it.
Yeah, I think because you have my learned friend here, a constitution which has served for at least 10 years, it's ripe for a review. Like now we have a 2010 constitution. Some of the Gen Zs did not participate in this constitution. And now that it is within their right to participate, and it has taken almost 15 years, it is time for the review of this constitution so that we bring them on board that what we are going to make in the constitution contains their opinion, so that they can allow the older generation to smoothly transfer the knowledge that they had when they were making this constitution, so that it is in tandem with the knowledge and the opinion of the current Gen Zs. So we have, the constitution is not static, as we believe. It is not static. It goes with the demands, the current demands of the people. And now that we have a population which is heavily below 35 years, we need to have a constitution that resonates with their thinking. And that constitution, as my learned friend has said, should be futuristic. It must respond to the thinking of the future generation. So I would wish that the Kenyan people, those who are involved in this constitutional dispensation, to relook and think on a way that we must take this constitution back to the Kenyans and see how we can put the interests of the Gen Zs also in this constitution, so that it is not at variance with their demands, and so that the knowledge and the people who fought for the 2010 constitution, there should not be a gap between the current generation and the older generation. And this gap can only be filled through a constitutional implementation. So we would rather have a new constitution again. We need to have a referendum. We need to have opinion of the people put again in the new constitution. And this will make the current generation feel that they are part and parcel of this.
Let's talk about the rights of respect to human rights that we have experienced, and of course LSK is coming here very strongly, and Parliament also plays a very key role when it comes to the respect to human rights and all that. Wakili, when you look at the whole spectrum and basically what has happened in the country in the past few months or past 1 year, according to statistics, is like around 60 people since last year. Is now close to 60 people. Younger generation died because of violence and police brutality, disappearances, and something like that. But then now, they were expressing their democratic rights. And here it comes that 60 people died, in one way or another. So how do we bridge this so that whenever you are exercising your democratic right, the rule of law and respect to human rights is also upheld?
I think the major thing in this discussion, Victor, is the police. And that has been a very constant reminder in our face. It has been stuck in our face and we're not seeing it.
Yeah.
How do we train our police? What is the chain of command of our police? Are police well skilled and tailored to be able to enforce the law in the current dispensation? In the 2010 Constitution, are they alive to the rights and obligations of or their responsibilities under the 2010 Constitution? My guess, no, they are not. Why is that? We were supposed to carry out police reforms under the new Constitution so that their training, their command structure is in tandem, so that it's a service, not a force. But by all means, all the successful regimes which have been able to take from 2010 have not been able to do that. That is where you see IPOA being a very toothless dog, because it was supposed to ensure that whatever police excesses that they are able to come in and be able to deal with that. So that a policeman is not a law unto himself. Police cannot be able to accuse you under fiat and say that, I can still arrest you. That threat should be able to be lost in the old dispensation. If we can be able to deal with police reforms, from where I sit, I think, and sense it, the people we need to sensitize more are the police. Because the command structure, the way the police are trained is that to believe that they are different people, they are superior character, or they are superior human beings as opposed to the people they are supposed to be able to serve. If we can be able to change that, and for some reason I can understand why the system or government is not able to do that, because it works well for them. They are able to do things which they want to do. But then, if you are speaking about the 2010 Constitution and the rights which are entrenched therein, then we cannot be doing ourselves a service with the police force the way it's structured. So we need to go down. I think with the case of Albert Ojwang and all the other agency demonstrations which happened and we lost lives, we need to start questioning ourselves. What is not happening right? And from where I sit, the police force is something we need to put on the table and discuss them and be able to figure out how do we ensure law-compliant police enforcement.
Very good. Mheshimiwa.
Now, just as he is saying, one thing is, when you look at the police in UK, how they handle the demonstration, you would not know that those are policemen. They even never use their guns at all. So the training aspect is very crucial in this country. And I wonder, because we must have picked the training, because we are a colony of the British. We must have picked from them. I don't know why ours has deviated, because we picked everything. When you go to...
They has evolved as you were stuck with the old system.
You wonder why we are laughing.
When you go to I've been in the House of Commons,
right,
I think 5 times in the UK, just to see how they conduct their parliamentary business and how they are. We copied everything, almost everything, from their system. And even the structure of the governance. Theirs have evolved. Ours, I think, we are static. We need to resurrect our training from the slumberland. We need to make the police as a service. They must be, because they protect, everybody should be protected by the police.
Yeah.
I can tell you, when we were growing up, when you see a policeman, you run to the opposite direction. Because we have been socialized to believe that the police are not friendly to the people. But we need to move from that belief. We need to move and see that the police protect the people. When you see a policeman, you run to him.
That now goes back to you as legislators, because it is where laws are made, and you can easily compel that body to reform as parliament.
And I think that is why we have the IPOA That is why, because it is contained within the Constitution,
Yes.
even the 2010 Constitution, the police is supposed to be a service. But now, the implementation aspect, I think the governance, the structure of the ruling party, they should take a systematic approach, and they must have an intention to make the police be a service.
Yeah.
There must be deliberate efforts, and you know, deliberate efforts, they don't come easily. So as a Kenyan people, we need to make deliberate effort to make the police serve the people.
Okay. Of course, that is with regards to what is about to happen tomorrow, June 25th. Mheshimiwa, it was a very big scare. As a member of parliament, I don't know where you were on that day.
You know, I always
we can pull your leg a bit.
you know,
I was at the restaurant.
I always tell my colleagues in parliament that as members of parliament from Nairobi,
Yes.
we tell them as we are the scholars because we work.
You work from home.
So it was a big scare for the borders.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, those who come from away from the city, because sometimes they might not find their roots. You know me,
I've never heard of this.
as a day scholar, I just walked through the gate.
Yes.
And went to my constituency.
It's about to happen again tomorrow. But
even
this
tomorrow, if they come, I'll walk. I'm a day scholar. I'll just
you just carry your books and go back and work from home. When it comes to that, Mheshimiwa, nobody saw this, that in a Kenyan history, we'll be marking this day. Tomorrow, it's already out there that June 25th is becoming a day to be remembered. I mean, it must have been a very sad day in the history of this country. 60 people, some of them are permanently maimed because of what happened last year, and 1 year on, we are still talking about this. In 1 minute, how can we change this narrative for better?
Now, we cannot run away from the fact that it was a dark day for Kenya.
Yeah.
And especially because it involved the youths. And for a while that it was growing up, and nobody expected that it would reach the crescendo. Nobody expected that it would reach that level. But I think as a country, we have learned, you know, you only learn from experience. That experience made us learn that these young people can also mean business.
Yeah.
And we must respond to their demands. One of them, it was about the finance bill, the cost of living, the implementation. Those are some of the few things that they put. And this year, I think, the government responded by bringing in a good finance bill that did not raise taxes. But that not alone. We are people, it will be remembered because the young people, some were killed and some were maimed, the way you have said. And Kenyans must run away from this. We must treat this as a very, very sad thing. It is allowed that people can picket. Article 37, you are allowed to picket. And what we need to do, the police need to give protection. And also, if at all they will come for demonstration. I think it should be peaceful demonstration. The police must ban the midnight oil to see how they are going to contain those who are demonstrating. And I think they should be encouraged that they should be peaceful.
Yeah.
But the police also must be ready to deal with those who are not peaceful. They must have a system, they must have a structure that they can see that these ones are not peaceful, these ones are peaceful.
Yeah.
So they must have a two-pronged approach, a way that the Kenyans will be satisfied that they have carried out their work in a more professional way, so that we don't have casualties.
I'll come back to you.
Yes.
On this segment, we have got a segment called How to Make Kenya Great. And I'll give you 1 minute to face your camera and talk to Kenyans. But that one coming back to you. Wakili, tomorrow, a dark day, a day that nobody ever expected that we'd be marking such a day in the history of this country. But here we are. Look at your Where's your camera? Yes, camera 1. So this segment is called How to Make Kenya Great. You have 1 minute. Say to the camera, how do we make Kenya great? Starting now.
I will start by a quote by Nelson Mandela and say that for us to be a great or a civilized nation and a developed nation, Mandela said in his own perspective that in that regard, a nation is judged by how it deals with its weakest. How do we deal with our weakest as Kenya? How do we deal with our children, school-going children? How do we deal with our sick people in hospitals? How do we deal with our demonstrators who are selling masks, who are trying to make a living even amidst a demonstration? How do we deal with our people with disabilities? How do we deal with those ones who are not able to make a living, like people within the constituents of Mheshimiwa? That is how we can be able to make Kenya great. If we can look at the small things and be able to deal with them in a very civil way, we will be a developed country which we can be able to surpass anything in this world and ensure that every right belongs to every Kenyan. Once we can be able to recognize that, and every Kenyan can be able to draw from the goodwill or from the breadbasket of the Kenyan development, then we will be a developed country. We will be a hopeful people. We will be people who will be unstoppable. I saw the U.S. President Trump praise his military, how they went and attacked Iran. I don't know whether they actually did that because the other quarters are saying that they misfired. But you know, you need to sell your people a hope that no other military in the world can do that. We need to be at that particular position where we can be able to claim at least one thing and say there is something as Kenyans we can do way better than anyone else in the world.
Right.
That one will make us great.
Your 1 minute is over. That is Gibson Gesori. How to make Kenya great in his own opinion. Mheshimiwa, in 1 minute, how do we make Kenya great? His camera 2. That is your camera. Please look straight to the camera and address the nation how to make Kenya great.
I think all said and done, one thing that is very crucial is that we must love our country. We must not allow our country to go to the dogs. And one way of doing this is to uphold the rule of law in this country. We must strive to have a united nation. That means we have 42 or so tribes, but the diversity of our tribe should give us the strength to hold together.
Yes.
And we must shun tribalism so that we be as a Kenyan people, as a nation that have a united approach towards tribulations, towards difficulties. We must have also, for us to make this Kenya great, we must have equal distribution of resources to all parts of this country so that everyone will feel that he is being taken care of. We must also hold democratic rights. We must not infringe on the rights of individuals in this country. And most importantly, we must make Kenya a free society. When we got the independence, we said that we will bring about the health care, education, and we must remain agriculturally active.
Yeah.
So when we do this, then we will make Kenya a great nation.
Thank you. All right. All of them, a minute each, in their own opinion, how to make Kenya great. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Gibson Gesori, an advocate of the High Court, is also a political analyst. I almost said something, but it's okay. I'll say that next time, Wakili. Member of Parliament, who is a day scholar.
In his own right.
In his own right. Who is a day scholar and a member of Vitabu in the morning, go back home in the evening. Yes. A very good thing. Mheshimiwa, thank you so much. And say hi to our fellow day scholars.
Kibra people. Kibra. You know, Kibra nation.
You hapo lazima, if you know, you know. Asante sana. And now you as a viewer, thank you so much for your valid company. Before you go, gentlemen, what's your newspaper there, Mheshimiwa? Just raise it up. Standard. Let me start with mine. On the front page of the Star newspaper, Ruto crisis inside debt burden. That is also on the front page of the Star newspaper. Revenues and critical projects stall as state grapple.